Hello children, welcome back to the class. So let me ask you a question. What happens if you don't pass urine for a long time? Do you think it is healthy? No. Then what should we do? We should remove our waste then and there. So what will happen if you store the waste inside our body for a long time? That may cause severe illness. Can you name the different types of waste that we excrete from our body? First will be urine, then feces. So we excrete unwanted solid waste through the anus called feces. We excrete urine and we also excrete carbon dioxide during respiration. And we also excrete salts and water in the form of sweat through the largest organ in our body, skin. So we have certain ways that has to be excreted from our body in order to protect our body. So you call the process as excretion. And what do we require for this process of excretion? We require an excretory organ. So we have different excretory organs like skin and even lung acts as an excretory organ, removing our carbon dioxide from the body. And even anus acts as an excretory organ to remove the waste from our solid waste from our body. But the major waste is urine, which has to be excreted out from the body. So kidneys will act as the excretory organ in order to remove the important major waste, urine. So we need to know the structure of kidneys. First, you need to know where is your kidney located. Our kidneys, we have a pair of kidneys located on either side of your vertebral column. Vertebral column is your spine. So you could have seen you would have not seen, but you could have felt your spine at the back. So that it lies. So this lies on the either side of your vertebral column. So we have a pair of bean-shaped organ called the kidneys. So these are called kidneys, and the kidneys are connected to a tube-like structure. So you call this tube as ureters. You call this as ureters. And this ureter ends up in a bag-like structure. You call this as urinary bladder. So you call this as urinary bladder. And you have an opening called the urethra or the urinary opening. And this is your renal artery and renal vein, which brings the blood inside and takes up out. Okay. So excretory organ kidney plays an important role in removing the waste called urine. So when you take the composition of urine, it contains 96% of water, 95 to 96% of water, and the remaining 4% will be the metabolic waste. So these metabolic waste has to be removed then and there in order to keep your body healthy. So now let us see how this process works. I told you respiration process takes place with the help of lungs, and we have specialized cell in lung called the alveoli. Good. Similarly, the kidneys will have the specialized cells within called the nephron. So when you cut up and when you slice this and see, you can find millions of cells inside. You call those cells as nephron. So the complete urine formation takes place within the nephron. So let us see the process one by one. It has a cup-shaped structure called the Bowman's capsule. So you call it as the Bowman's capsule. And this cup-shaped structure will have network of capillaries. You call that as glomerulus. You call that as glomerulus. This cup-shaped structure will form a coiled tube-like structure. You call this coiled tube-like structure as proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal convoluted tubule. And this proximal convoluted tubule leads to a loop-like structure. You call this loop-like structure as the Hennel's loop. So you call this as the Hennel's loop or the loop of Hennel. Now this Hennel's loop leads to again a coiled tube-like structure called the distal convoluted tubule. So you call this as distal convoluted tubule. Now this tubule ends up with a tube-like structure called the collecting duct. So you call this as the collecting duct. So now let us see how urine formation takes place within the kidney. I told you the cells of the cells of kidneys are nephrons. We have around millions of nephrons inside the kidney which does the urine formation. That is why nephrons are called the structural and functional unit of kidney. Okay. So now when you take the structure of nephron, you can find the Bowman's capsule, which leads to a tube-like structure called the proximal convoluted tubule, and this proximal convoluted tubule ends up with a loop-like structure called the Hennel's loop, and again it starts with a helicoil called the distal convoluted tubule, and finally ending up with the collecting duct. So the blood will be rushed inside by the renal artery, which takes up all the impurities from all the parts of the body, and it flows the blood inside the Bowman's capsule. I told you the Bowman's capsule will have network of capillaries. So what will happen when the blood flows inside? The blood carrying substances will be filtered initially inside this glomerulus. So that is the first step. We call that as glomerular filtration or ultrafiltration. So the first step in urine formation will be ultrafiltration. Ultrafiltration or glomerular filtration. So here what will happen? The blood carrying all the filtrate, the blood carrying all the substances like glucose, amino acid, proteins, vitamins, even the drug, the medicines that we take, or all the waste, urea, uric acid, everything will be filtered inside the glomerular filter. So this will be the first step. Now what will happen? This filter will move to the next proximal convoluted tubule and move through the Hennel's loop and the distal convoluted tubule. So in the tubular, we have the second step called the tubular reabsorption. So the second step will be tubular reabsorption. So what will happen here is the wanted substances alone will be absorbed and the remaining substance will be excreted out. So the wanted substances are glucose, amino acids, particularly water, and the remaining substances are the waste or the toxins which has to be removed out. If that stays, that is not healthy for the kidneys to work. So the third step will be tubular secretion. So tubular secretion is the place where the toxins has to be removed. So especially the toxins include urea, uric acid, protein like creatinine, and we also have hydrogen ions and few minerals like potassium. So all these has to be removed out, even sodium that has to be removed out from your body, which is highly toxic. So that step is the tubular secretions. Then what will happen after all the excretes? We have only the water coming out along with the metabolites. So here in the collecting duct you can find the formation of urine. So the remaining waste is called the urine, which has 96% of water, and the remaining 4% will be the metabolic waste. So the metabolic waste is the toxins that I told you to be, it has to be removed out through the tubular secretions. So the urine that we excrete out will not only carry water, it also carries 4% of metabolic waste. Okay, so all the filtration and all urine formation, everything takes place within the kidney, and you have a tube-like structure called the ureters. So the collecting duct will be connected here via the ureters. So what will happen? The urine that is released will be stored in the urinary bladder for some time. So that is why the question I asked you in the very beginning, what will happen when you hold urine for a long time? So just imagine this part, the urinary bladder can store urine for some time, and if you store it for a long time, these bladder cells will have tiny cells which will what will happen, the metabolic waste that is excreted in the urine will start depositing here. So when they start depositing here, what will happen? It can form small crystals, and those crystals are kidney stones. So now you might know how kidney stones are formed. So it is always advisable to excrete out the waste rather than storing. Okay. So urinary bladder can store urine for some time, and it is excreted out via the opening called the urethra. So if you store urine for a long time, that may end up in improper functioning of kidney. So this may lead to severe threat. Sometimes the kidney can fail and it cannot work. In that case, people go for kidney transplantation, which means they require a kidney from a donor, and surgery has to be done for the implantation of the donor kidney. And the second method to prevent this kidney failure is you can go for treatment. You can go for therapy or treatment like called the hemodialysis. So this is an expensive method, but which is used in a very which is used in recent days in order to save life of people. So you call the method as hemodialysis. So what will happen? The blood. So the natural process that is occurring in our body will be done in the use of machine. You call that machine as a dialyzer. So it will have chambers. So it has different chambers. So the blood flows within the chamber, and all the filtrate will be filtered there. So one disadvantage of this dialysis is reabsorption, tubular reabsorption cannot occur. Only the filtrate it can filter, and it can remove all the waste. So though it is an expensive method, so which is not affordable to everybody, so it is very important to maintain our health of our kidneys properly. So this is how urine formation takes place in our body. And you also know even plant excrete. So we saw an experiment showing transpiration, which is the excess removal of water from plants. And we have the other method. During respiration, we saw the plant will excrete out carbon dioxide, and during photosynthesis, it is the reverse process. And apart from that, we also have certain waste that are excreted by the plants. Can you guess what are those waste? Sometimes you can see the leaf falling down. So even that leaf falling down is because of some kind of waste which is excreted out from its plant body. And even some gums and resins you can find. Some trees will secrete certain oozy or latex, some kind of excretes gums or resins. Even those are called the waste of plants. So plant can also excrete the waste from our body through stomata, lenticles, root hairs, falling off leaf, even falling off a fruit. So all these are examples that plants do excrete waste in order to maintain its temperature and the mechanism. Any doubts, children? Thank you.